After countless efforts, I finally got the male lead. The night we confirmed our relationship, Peter held me in his arms, and we tried every position imaginable in the apartment. Suddenly, the system shrieked, "You freaking seduced the wrong person, that's the Yandere villain." The novel described him as sinister, obsessive, and vindictive, a Yandere villain who would turn anyone who dared to deceive him into ashes. What to do? We've already done everything. In the morning, I got out of bed, and he grabbed my wrist, begging with a hoarse voice, "Don't go, stay with me a little longer." I kissed him and said, "I'll be right back." And then I vanished into thin air. He went crazy searching for me, but suddenly received a message from me on his cell phone. "You suck in bed, let's break up." I understand everything. But I already said those things to him, and now you're telling me I not only went back to this world, but I have to seduce the male lead again right under his nose? The damn system said, "Well, there's nothing we can do, it's already happened." Besides, that was 5 years ago, he must have forgotten about it. Currently, we're at an auction invested in by Peter. The auction is brightly lit, full of noise, and the air is thick with luxury and mystery. I put on a mask and nervously weave through the crowd, my eyes involuntarily searching for that familiar figure. Peter is wearing a custom-made black suit, the collar slightly open, revealing his delicate collarbones, radiating an undeniable aura of oppression. He is currently surrounded by various wealthy individuals, the center of attention. It's like he and I are from different worlds now. In these 5 years, Peter has built his business empire with his own hands and is no longer the same person. He's someone who can make New York tremble with just a glance. No one dares to offend him. Just then, he lifted his thin eyelids and his gaze lightly fell on me. I'm wearing a mask, so I know he won. He recognized me. But at that moment, my breath hitched, as if someone was tightly gripping my throat. Fortunately, his gaze only lingered on me for a few seconds before moving away. As if he was just looking at something insignificant. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The first time I came to this world, I was only 10 years old, named Nancy, and was Peter's foster daughter. The system threw down a sentence: "The male lead is the young master of the Qin family, you go seduce him," and then ran out of power and went into hibernation. I fell into contemplation looking at the 2 young masters of the Qin family. Peter, the Qin family's true young master who had been lost for many years, was 12 years old and had just been found by the Qin family. Xander, the Qin family's false young master raised by mistake, was 12 years old and had been pampered and well fed by the Qin family since he was a child. When Peter first returned to the Qin family mother coldly told him, "Our family doesn't value blood relations. Even if you come back, Xander and Nancy are still the most important people in this family, do you understand?" Peter, who had suffered all kinds of hardships while lost, didn't have a single good piece of flesh on his body, but had eyes like a wolf. He didn't say anything, just silently stared at her, making her skin crawl. It was precisely because of this that the Qin mother thought he was an ungrateful wretch who had been corrupted by those lowlifes while lost, and never gave him a good look. His appearance also gave me a headache. Who exactly is the real male lead? I had to make a choice as soon as possible. I was only 10 years old, but I was already arranging a room for Peter and picking out new clothes for him. I pulled open the curtains of the room and gave him a big smile. "Peter, this will be your room from now on. It's very close to my room, and I'll come to play with you every day." The sunlight illuminated his gray shadow, and for the first time, there was a glimmer in his eyes. Peter and Xander's birthdays are on the same day. On Peter's birthday, the whole family went on a trip to celebrate Xander's birthday. I felt sorry for Peter being alone at home, so I pretended to be sick and secretly stayed behind, without telling Peter. When Peter returned home alone with his backpack, looking lonely, I suddenly turned on all the lights and gave him a big smile. Surprise! A birthday cake with Peter's name written on it was placed on the table. The room was carefully decorated with balloons and ribbons everywhere. He said it was the first birthday he had ever had. From then on, his attitude towards me changed. According to the system's description, the male lead should be the strongest person in this small world. Looking at Xander, who had been well trained since he was a child and could play even the most difficult pieces without a hitch, I was even more inclined to believe that he was the real male lead. But to be on the safe side, I picked out a very difficult math problem and spread it out in front of them. Whoever can solve my math problems first will get a hug from me. I deliberately used orange-scented shower gel to make my whole body smell fragrant. Looking back now, the prize was laughably clumsy. But Peter and Xander immediately buried themselves in solving the math problems. I thought that Xander, who had been surrounded by various famous tutors since he was a child and had received a good education, would definitely solve it first. Unexpectedly, Peter solved it 3 minutes faster than Xander. Only then did I realize that Peter's IQ was far above Xander's. He must be the real male lead. My seduction mission began. I stood up and pounced on him, giving him a big hug, and forcefully kissed him on the cheek. "Peter, you're amazing." Peter had never received such a warm hug before. He stood there in a daze for a long time before slowly reaching out to hug me, burying me in his arms, cherishing me as if he had found a treasure. For a while, I was obsessed with the piano. I was clumsy and couldn't play the piano as well as Xander. He played a rose for me on the piano like a gentleman, his fingers skillfully moving across the keys. Peter noticed that when Xander was playing the piano, I would stare at him blankly. He followed me and looked at him too. But I was purely admiring, while he accurately remembered every key and all of Xander's movements after watching it once. Then, he played it for me. He really was a one-in-a-million genius, with a photographic memory and perfect pitch. The Chin family gradually realized Peter's intelligence and talent, shifted their attention to him, and wanted to ease their relationship with him. But they had already missed the only opportunity for Peter to open his heart to them. They didn't accept him when he first came home. So there was no need for it in the future. He was unruly, stubborn, and had a bad temper. But he uniquely yielded to me. In order to go to the same top university as me, he frantically crammed knowledge in my high school years. Later, after getting into the same top university, he chose the same major as me and always tutored me. Then he started his own business, and his career was no less successful than the Chin family's. We confirmed our relationship. Who would have thought that such an excellent person wouldn't be the male lead? I searched everywhere in the auction hall for the male lead's figure. According to the plot, I needed to take a knife for him to make him fall in love with me. Finally, I saw that familiar figure. As expected of the male lead, he looked gentle and kind, completely different from the Yandere villain. Xander, the Chin family's false young master, whom I had been ignoring all along. I raised my wine glass and was about to walk over when a figure suddenly blocked my way. The man's shadow enveloped my whole body. I slowly raised my eyes and met the man's cold gaze. Who else could it be but Peter? What did he want to do? I nervously tightened my mask. Mr. Chin. Peter stared at me. "You call me Mr. Chin?" I resisted the urge to run away. "That's what everyone calls you." I couldn't see clearly, but in the darkness, a hint of emotion flashed in Peter's eyes, dark and dangerous. That night we confirmed our relationship. He kissed me, hugged my waist, his breath hot, and asked me again and again, "What do you call me?" I wrapped my legs around his narrow waist and breathed into his sensitive ear. I said, "Boyfriend." "Say it again." "Husband." I soon regretted it. He picked me up, slammed me against the marble desk, leaned over and kissed my lips. Then, everything became uncontrollable. He held me down, manipulated me into a position where I couldn't resist, and wantonly displayed his desire. As if he had been enduring for a very long time. Now, I call him Mr. Cheen. This title is restrained, alienated, like a cold ruler, clearly dividing our relationship. He sneered and asked my name. For some reason, I didn't dare to reveal it and just lied. My last name is Sue. Mississippi Sue. His hand gripped my palm. Nice to meet you, have a pleasant evening. For some reason, he emphasized the words nice to meet you especially heavily. I noticed the tattoo on his elbow. After he left, my back was already soaked with sweat. The tattoo seemed to be an N. People around me couldn't help but discuss. You're the first woman he's shaken hands with in years. Mississippi Yale from the famous Yin family in New York wanted to shake hands with him before, but he said his wife was strict and didn't allow him to touch others. Did you notice his tattoo? I heard his tattoo is his wife's name. But that tattoo looked a lot like the initials of my name. NN. Nancy. I've treated him like that. How could it be, with his vindictive nature? I closed my eyes. It must be a coincidence. I always felt that this auction wasn't very serious. Seemingly to warm up the atmosphere, the first item to be auctioned was torture instruments. The first item was anklet inlaid with diamonds. Each diamond sparkled dazzlingly under the lights, decorating the cold metal. The host introduced, "This is an anklet personally crafted by a master. It's not just a prop for imprisonment, but also a great work of art." I was wearing a mask and was a little nervous. Just then, Peter raised his paddle and bought it at an astonishing price. Just then, whether it was my illusion or not, his gaze swept over me lightly. The apartment where we used to live together was carefully bought by him. At first, I didn't understand why he wanted to buy such a large floor-to-ceiling window, a bathtub big enough for 2 people. All of this was revealed on the day we confirmed our relationship. I was pressed against the window, watching the traffic below, feeling a sense of shame of being watched. He was afraid that I would get tired of only one position, so he specially bought a lot of erotic props, so many that I was stunned. That night, before I could run out of the bathtub, he scooped me back in again and again, covered in sweat. I wondered what Peter was thinking when he saw me say that he sucked in bed. The second item was a restraint chair. The third item was handcuffs. Peter bought every single one. What was he buying these for? The memories of that night flooded into my mind little by little, as if these things had already been used on me. After these 3 exhibits were over, the things behind suddenly became normal. But the last item stunned me. It was a painting I had drawn when I was a child. Peter raised his paddle and bought it at a high price. People around me started discussing. That seems to be a painting drawn by Mr. Cheen's wife. It said that Mr. Cheen's wife left him because Mr. Cheen made a mistake. He's been missing her all these years. Yeah, I don't know where his wife went. Mr. Cheen has been searching for her like C. Crazy all these years. I was dumbfounded. What mistake did Peter make? Also, when did I become Mr. Cheen's wife? I clearly humiliated him like that. The system instantly understood. I get it, he must want to spread rumors about your relationship first, so that he can justifiably tie you to his side and torture you after you come back. As expected of a Yandere villain, vindictive and deeply scheming. I was so scared by it that I trembled. I decided to keep my distance from Peter. After the auction, all the attendees moved to the hall to enjoy food and waltzes. According to the plot, a mental patient would suddenly attack Xander. The system said that in the novel, it was because I helped him block the knife that our relationship could take off like a rocket. Although the previous plot had basically collapsed, if I started behaving now, maybe there was still room for improvement. In order to protect Xander at any time, I could only carefully follow him, afraid of being discovered. Peter started his business when he was in school, and now he is the Forbes top businessman, with a reputation for being cruel and ruthless. And Xander's achievements were merely inheriting the Liu family. Clearly, they were supposed to be evenly matched male leads and Yandere villains in the novel, so why did it turn out like this? I shook these thoughts out of my head. No matter what, completing the mission was the most important thing. Just then, I was heavily pushed to the ground. Then I heard the screams of the guests. A burly man, resembling a black bear spirit, charged towards Xander with a knife at this moment. Everyone was running away in panic. In the chaos, my mask was knocked off. I stood in front of Xander, but the expected pain didn't come. Instead, the burly man let out a pig-like scream. In the darkness, I was scooped into the arms of a man. A very secure embrace, with hot hands tightly gripping my waist. But those hands were gently trembling. Nancy, you're okay. You almost died just now, do you know that? You didn't come back for 5 years, and as soon as you come back, you dare to take a knife for someone else. I really spoiled you. My ear was bitten painfully by him. Like longing, and like punishment. His eyes were filled with ice, like a furious black net. Did I not satisfy you that night, that you ran away for so long? Someone said that humans only develop 10% of their brains. I think he's right. No wonder I used all my life's wisdom to write a will for myself in this 0.1 seconds. I was shaking in Peter's arms. It's over, the Yandere villain has caught me. He still remembers what happened that night. The system is a liar, it's been 5 years, and he hasn't forgotten at all. But there's nothing I can do. That night, the system said to give me a day to completely break up with him. That day, I racked my brains to think, but I couldn't think of a foolproof plan, so I could only insult his skills in bed to make him resent me. What kind of person is Peter? He's the famous Yandere villain, cruel and ruthless, with a very strong desire for revenge. Anyone who dares to betray him doesn't even know how they died. He's been looking for me for these 5 years. But he couldn't find me. Under the system's protection, I safely spent 5 years abroad. He couldn't get any information about me. But now, I've fallen into his hands. He'll definitely try to torture me in every way possible. I wish I could just faint in his arms. But I must now look him in the eyes with complete clarity. It's always good to say hello first. A long time no see, Mr. Cheen. But the next second, for some reason, Peter squeezed my waist even tighter. Oh my God! Did I say something wrong again? Peter got closer to me, his eyes filled with dark emotions. He gritted his teeth, his eyes red, word by word, like anger, and like sadness. You used to not talk to me like this. Yes, I used to call him Peter, Little Pete. Or, later, I called him boyfriend. Not Mr. Cheen. But now, our positions are completely different. What's more, I once hurt him. There's no going back. I selectively ignored his question, really? Haven't I always been like this? You seem to be doing pretty well after all these years. Ha ha. His eyes turned fierce, and he suddenly hugged me tightly and kissed me forcefully. Ugh. I tried to push him away, but I couldn't budge him at all. Those big hands were hot and scalding, firmly holding my hands, forcing me to endure this kiss. This kiss was no longer restrained, fierce and vicious, almost making it impossible for me to breathe. If he wasn't holding me, my legs would have been so weak that I would have almost knelt down to him. Peter pressed down on my shoulders almost uncontrollably, those hands like iron tongs, almost crushing my shoulders. He was like a wounded beast, his eyes red, his tone suppressing great pain. Nancy, why do you think I'm doing pretty well? You know very well that these are the worst, most terrible 5 years of my life. My resistance was drowned in broken kisses. When I was vaguely conscious, Peter bit my ear, his voice barely audible. As if he was saying, "You're so cruel to me." The venue for this auction was a renovated large hotel. There were rooms everywhere. I had nowhere to escape. I was forcefully pressed onto a large bed in a room, my hands tied above my head with Peter's belt, unable to struggle. I wanted to move again, but he threatened me, "You don't want me to use those things I bought on you, do you?" I thought of the things he had auctioned off. Joke, my greatest strength is knowing how to adapt to circumstances. I immediately lay down peacefully like a corpse. My heart was filled with sorrow. It's over, all my missions are ruined. Tonight's hero saving the male lead plot has been completely ruined by Peter. I don't know when I'll encounter this once-in-a-century opportunity again. I was concerned about the mission and asked him when Peter kissed me, "What's going on outside? Has the bad guy been subdued? Is Xander hurt?" Then I was bitten on the neck by him, and it hurt so much that tears almost came out. "You're really concerned about Xander. The first thing you do when you come back is to take a knife for him." Yeah, speaking of which, when you were little, you always liked watching him play the piano. His tone was soft but prickly, sour but bitter, with a knife hidden in his smile. The situation seemed to be getting worse and worse for me. I felt very wronged. I liked watching him play the piano, wasn't it to confirm if he was the male lead? It's normal for the male lead to be able to play piano pieces skillfully and beautifully. In desperation, I quickly blurted out a sentence to protect myself. "I also like listening to you play the piano." He was obviously stunned, and his face finally improved a little. He leaned down and lifted a strand of my hair. "Xander is fine, my people have already protected him. Instead of worrying about that, you should worry about yourself first." I felt a sense of oppression coming over me, and I couldn't speak properly. What do you want to do?" "Of course, it's to correct mistakes." His hand caressed my face. "The experience I gave you that night wasn't good, so you left me for 5 whole years." His gloomy smile disappeared into the darkness. "This time, I'll make sure you don't even have the strength to run." My heart was pounding like thunder. I knew that every time he talked to me in this tone, he was going to get serious with me. The first cannon of the new year sounded. What happened later was so unforgettable that I didn't want to recall it, but I would never forget it in this life. Without a doubt, he made every part of my body remember him clearly. Many times, I had clearly climbed out, but he grabbed my anklet and forcibly dragged me back. The next morning, I woke up next to him. The bite marks all over. My body reminded me of what happened last night. After reacting for half a second, my gaze fell on Peter. He was naked from the waist up, and his eyes were closed. The sunlight fell on his body, and his long eyelashes cast a circle of shadow under his eyes. He was so beautiful that it was dazzling. I paused and subconsciously reached out to touch him. The system issued a warning. "What are you doing now? Isn't now the best opportunity? Run for your life." I was startled by it and retracted my hand. "Yuri still talking. What did you do last night, and you only show up now?" System, Yuri still blaming me. "Do you think I wanted to? Last night, all I could see were mosaics everywhere. I don't even want to talk about it." I was speechless. But I still stubbornly retorted, "What can I do? He hated me for 5 years, of course he's going to take revenge." However, I still had to run away. If I kept wasting time with him here, would I still do my mission? I endured the pain and picked up my clothes from the floor to put them on. I was about to leave when a strong hand suddenly grabbed me and scooped me back up. Can you still walk? He had a cold face, looks like I wasn't cruel enough last night. It turned out that he had already woken up some time ago. But he deliberately pretended to be asleep, probably to test my attitude and catch me in the act. I finally realized a cruel truth. If I don't appease the Yandere villain, I won't be able to escape. If I fall into his hands, he definitely won't let me walk out standing up. Faced with such a crisis, I anxiously stomped my feet in my heart and turned into a repeating machine, what to do, what to do, what to do. The system also did 10 push-ups on the spot and then desperately sought medical treatment. Why don't you? Why don't you coax him? Coax? How to coax? Seeing that Peter's hand was about to touch the handcuffs on the bedside table. He threatened me last night that if I dared to leave him and run away, he would handcuff my hands to the bed. I suddenly gritted my teeth, steeled my heart, wrapped my arms around his neck, and kissed his lips. The next second, Peter suddenly widened his eyes. This was the first time in 5 years that I had taken the initiative to kiss him. Although it was reckless, I had to admit that his emotions seemed to have stabilized and he wasn't as violent as before. My odds of winning have always come from his indulgence. He finally softened, no longer touching the handcuffs on the cabinet, and lay down beside me, but still tightly wrapped his arms around my waist, his voice low and hoarse. Behave yourself and stay by my side. As long as you're good. Now, I can give you anything. My heart was beating fast. But if I'm with you, I can't complete the mission. But the Yandere villain is now by my side and looks super insecure. As long as I dare to say no to him, he will go crazy at any time. I could only curl up beside him and say a small okay. That day, we stayed together all the time. He took me to his villa. The villa was far from the city, and I couldn't call a car around. As if afraid that I would run away, during the day, he and I huddled together on the sofa in the living room, working remotely. I moved my eyes away from the comics and carefully glanced at him. His sharp profile was very handsome. After 5 years, he seemed to have become more charming. The way he worked seriously was super handsome. Why isn't he the male lead? Noticing that I was looking at him, Peter didn't look up, reached out and scooped me into his arms without warning. In the computer, he was having a remote video conference with his secretary. Mr. Cheen, is Mrs. back? There was a subtle smile on Peter's face. Yes. That's good, that's good. It looks like Mrs. isn't angry anymore. I felt my palm being scratched. When I reacted, in a place where the secretary couldn't see, Peter was holding my hand and accurately intertwined his fingers with mine. Yes, I did something wrong 5 years ago and apologized all night yesterday. My face suddenly turned red. Apologized all night. You better have really apologized. I'm really honest now. Even if I want to run away in the future, I can't say it's because he sucks in bed. The video call ended. I asked him, when did I become your wife? Peter stared at me with his dark eyes, put me on his lap, and squinted at me with a smile. Do I need to help Mrs. recall what you called me that night? Me. That night we confirmed our relationship 5 years ago. I did call him husband a few times for fun. But that doesn't mean I'm his wife. I was very aggrieved, that doesn't count. We didn't really get married. As if he had finally waited for me to say this sentence, his eyes suddenly lit up and he looked at me with a smile. Then, let's get married? Huh? I was dumbfounded. That's too sudden, isn't it? Seeing that Peter's gaze was getting darker and darker, the system issued a warning to remind me, pretend to agree to him first, what we're best at is roundabout tactics. If we find a chance to run away in the future, we'll disappear for another 3 or 5 years. Me. I guarantee that if I disappear again, Peter will really go crazy. The next time he finds me, it won't be as simple as locking me up. Moreover, after last night, my body is really a little scared. My knees are still sore from being rubbed. As things stand, I can only pretend to obey him first. I lowered my head and said a soft, "Oh." Because I've been so good lately, behaving myself, Peter has gradually stopped thinking I'll run away. I think I'm doing a pretty good job pretending. I doze off on the sofa, and he coaxes me to sleep in bed, and I open my arms unguardedly to let him carry me over. When I encounter dishes I don't want to eat, I put them all in his bowl like I did when I was little, and he takes them all. I act spoiled with him, I act willful with him. But the matter of me taking a knife for Xander still makes him scowl. Peter is very afraid of me dying. I knew that even when I was little. When I was 11, I accidentally fell into the lake. When I was rescued, I wasn't breathing, my face was ashen, without a trace of life. Everyone said I probably couldn't be saved. He desperately performed CPR on me, and according to what they said, the despair in his eyes was like a bottomless black hole, his eyes were frighteningly red. He said that if I hadn't been rescued, he would have drowned in the lake to be buried with me. He's always been so extreme about things related to me. Sometimes I think, how great would it be if he were really the male lead? That way, I wouldn't have to be so torn like I am now. After about a month, he completely let his guard down with me. He gave me back my cell phone. It was at this time that I received a message from Xander. "Nancy, where are you? Are you okay? Are you hurt?" I raised my face and said to Peter, "I miss home, can I go home for a visit?" Although Peter wasn't too willing, he saw the longing in my eyes and ultimately accompanied me back. He doesn't have much affection for that home. From birth, he was taken away by someone else by mistake. He was supposed to be a child born with hope and love. But that love was all given to someone else. He could have been praised by his parents for everything, from his first words to his first steps, just like Xander. But what about him? He was taken away by a poor gambling addict with violent tendencies. How many times did he almost die? In the dead of winter, the gambler would vent his anger on him for losing money, locking him outside. At that time, he was only 5 years old, without clothes that fit, wearing summer short sleeves. When the debt collectors came to the door, that heartless gambler pushed him, still a child, in front of those debt collectors without saying a word and ran away. Himself. Those people couldn't get money, so they vented all their anger on him, hitting him with knives and sticks recklessly. Peter still has the scars from that time on his body. He thought that he would be happy when he got to the Chin family. He would meet parents who loved him. All the lost love would return to him. But the first step he took into the house, before he even had time to look up at his biological parents, he received a cold warning. They said that the most important people in this family were Xander and Nancy. At that time, I watched the light in his eyes go out. The system said, "It's really rare that you accidentally managed to seduce the Yandere villain." According to the original plot, after he came to the Chin family, he would regard you as the biggest enemies, trying every possible way to torture you who replaced him. Look at page 46 of the novel. He pushed you into the lake when no one was around in the blind spot of the surveillance, and here, he deliberately took you to a strange place and left you next to people who looked like kidnappers, and then left himself. But originally, the villain existed to promote the relationship between the male and female leads. After experiencing this series of hardships, your relationship with Xander would have reached a new level, but unfortunately, none of this happened. One wrong step, every step wrong. I looked with the system, never expecting that the original plot would be like this if I hadn't seduced him. When I was little, I accidentally fell into a very deep lake because I was playing. None of the passers-by dared to save me. He jumped down without hesitation and desperately brought me up. Afterwards, he looked at the lake with dark eyes. I wish I could fill it up. Another time, I was targeted by kidnappers and almost dragged into a car. He risked his life to drag the kidnapper's car, giving me enough time to be rescued. For some reason, I found that I was actually a little GL. Add. I finally returned to the Cheen family. Xander rushed over as soon as he heard that I was back. He looked at me with heartache, holding my hand. Where have you been for the past 5 years? How come I didn't have any news of you? Do you know how much I missed you? You're so silly, so weak, yet you rushed up to take a knife for me. Are you hurt anywhere? I said, I'm fine, see? I'm doing well, aren't I? Just then, a hand with distinct knuckles pulled me back. Where Xander could see, Peter blatantly kissed my cheek, his narrow eyes glancing at him. Nancy and I are getting married soon. Sorry, I forgot to bring you an invitation this time. Xander's eyes widened, and he looked at me in shock. Is what he's saying true? I nodded. But the regretful look couldn't be hidden. I thought, how did the plot become like this? Perhaps my expression was too obvious. So much so that when I returned to the room, Peter pinned me against the wall, his tone very cold. Did you come back this time for Xander? I should have known. System, this won't work. I have to create an opportunity for you to get rid of him. Me, do you have any other way? System, like this, when you go out later, try to distract him. I'll create a car accident for you, let him think you're dead, and then we'll disappear for a few years. There's no other way. I hugged Peter. Accompany me to choose a wedding ring. Just one sentence easily coaxed Peter. His hand covered my back, and he said softly, okay. His eyes narrowed, unable to hide the smile. But I lied to him again. I thought, he's probably just too indulgent with me. On the way to choosing wedding rings with Peter, I waited for the opportunity for that car accident. I said to Peter, I want to eat ice cream, can you buy me one? Peter looked at me worriedly. I understood what he meant. Don't worry, I won't leave. The place selling ice cream is very close, I won't even leave his sight. He said, wait for me. He turned and left. I breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he was 10 steps away from me, a car sped towards me. The system really delivers. I closed my eyes. But at the critical moment, a pair of hands forcefully pushed me away. The next second, the color of blood stung my eyes. I never thought that Peter would be associated with words like lying in a pool of blood, lifeless. At the door of the emergency room in the hospital, I waited with a cold body. Xander came to see me, comforting me. But I couldn't say a word to him, and I kept silently chanting in my heart. Peter can't die, he must not die. Only now did I foolishly realize how important Peter is to me. System, what are you doing? The male lead is right next to you, hurry up and talk to him, seduce him. I suddenly remembered something and asked the system palely, if I'm with the male lead, what will Peter's ending be? System, are you asking about the plot in the novel? In the novel, after you were with Xander, Peter hid in the shadows and committed suicide. None of this is important, his greatest role as the villain is to facilitate the love between the male and female leads, isn't it? The mission is complete, of course the author doesn't want to give him any ink. My heart suddenly turned cold. The system was still chattering, now the villain is lying in the hospital bed, barely alive, he will definitely not interfere with you anymore, this is the best opportunity, you must seize it. But I suddenly said, I'm not doing the mission anymore. The system wanted to say something, but when it heard what I said, it suddenly froze. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by not doing the mission? I said, I don't want to seduce the male lead anymore, I don't want Peter to die. The system became anxious, but if you don't complete the mission, you won't be able to go home. I'm not going back anyway, in that American world, I'm just an orphan. Have you forgotten what I said when you bonded with me? If you violate the timeline, you will be erased. Erasing means that no one will remember you anymore, everything you have here will disappear, Peter will forget you. But if I follow the timeline, Peter will die. I said, in that case, it's better to let me disappear. The light in the emergency room went out. The doctor said that the surgery was successful, but the patient still hadn't woken up. I stayed by Peter's side without eating or drinking. Time really passed for a long, long time. During that time, Xander persuaded me many times to rest and go home to get a good night's sleep, but I didn't leave. Looking at Peter's pale face, I couldn't help but want to cry, and I shed tears with my eyes closed. Just when I thought that Peter would keep sleeping like this, a hand reached out and wiped away my tears for me. I opened my eyes, and in the moonlight, Peter had opened his eyes at some point. He said, Nancy, don't cry. Never cry for me. I took his hand. I've chosen our wedding rings, you have to get better soon, you still have to take me to try on the wedding dress. Peter slowly widened his eyes. As if afraid that I would regret it, he answered me with a dry voice, forcefully, okay. 2 months later, Peter had recovered as before. He often brags about that incident. Xander, are you really okay? You won't die, will you? Peter, who got the marriage certificate, was in a good mood and didn't hate him as much. Of course I'm okay, otherwise, Nancy would cry for me, and I can't bear that. A car accident can get Nancy to cry for me once, it's too cheap for me. Xander rolled his eyes, you might as well have died. On the wedding day, I quietly waited for the erasure that the system said. But for some reason, the erasure didn't come. Speaking of which, I haven't heard the system's voice for many days. My head suddenly ached unbearably. A memory flooded into my mind. Actually, I died when I was 11 years old. I fell into the deep lake in Drow. Ned. Before I died, I seemed to vaguely hear Peter's desperate cries. I didn't want to die. I signed a contract with the system to seduce the male lead in various worlds. But what I didn't know was that after that, Peter also jumped into that lake. Later, Peter also followed. The male lead I seduced in each world was him. But after I successfully seduced him, I would quickly leave and go to the next world. So this time, he no longer chose to be the male lead, but became the villain. He's really smart, accumulating power in each world, giving his system a fatal blow at a critical moment, and getting rid of the system's control. At the same time, he drained my system's power and put it into hibernation. He gave me the opportunity to recognize the wrong male lead. But because of the interference of the world line, he forgot all this and merged with the villain in the original book. Because of this car accident, he remembered again. Knowing that the system wanted to erase me, he was furious. He broke the rules and used the abilities he had accumulated in various worlds over the years to unbind me and the system. He successfully kept me. The system messed up my memory, making me mistakenly think that I had a home to return to, someone to wait for. But in fact, I had already gone home. If I followed the system's control, I might never be able to go home. I looked at Peter, my emotions surging. I rushed up and kissed him on tiptoe. Peter was stunned for a moment, then hugged me and smiled, my bride can't wait anymore? I told him, Peter, I really love you. His eyes widened, and his ears visibly turned red. We held a grand wedding under the witness of everyone. After that, We went to many, many places together to travel, making up for all the missed time. This time, no one can control us anymore.